I'm Carmiece and I practice family law in the Washington, D.C. area.
One of the questions we have to think about, like say if you're married and you're dealing with your house and you own it together, the question is, well, we have an asset that we need to deal with. Sunset, they just abandoned me and come back, they've been gone, they've been gone. They've been gone, they ain't seen nobody, so I guess it's over. That was, oh man. I think where was somebody? All right, we're gonna get through this. Hold on. Rerunning it.
I'm Carmiece and I practice family law in the Washington, D.C. area.
One of the questions we have to think about, like say if you're married and you're dealing with your house and you own it together, the question is, well, we have an asset that we need to deal with. Sunset, they just abandoned me and come back, they've been gone, they've been gone. They've been gone, they ain't seen nobody, so I guess it's over. That is not true. Okay, that's on me. Are there people out history that despite whatever circumstances, they did what they wanted to do? Hello. Welcome to the Carmiece Grave Show. It is Coffee with Carmiece Wednesdays at 11. I changed the time. It used to be Tuesdays at 10. I love the sound of that. But today, we in here Wednesday at 11. Talking about what's going on in reality. How you guys doing? We are in summer. It's the height of summer. You're going into July. How are you doing? Are you enjoying it? You vaccinated? You out? You mingling? You wearing your mask? No mask? What's going on? I don't know the etiquette anymore. Mask off. People just like ready to do it. But then we got the variant, y'all. I don't know. So today's show, what we're going to talk about today. In my shop, in my world, and what I do, I'm going to be talking to you today about representing yourself in cases, certain, cases to watch out for, why you may not want to do that. Because it's happening. I'm getting calls from people. It's the last minute. They've developed a strategy. And I'm like, man, I really don't want people to do that. And let me tell you why. Because you might think, oh, you just want attorney's fees. I do want my fees. But I'm going to tell you why I would have earned them. And you'll be very happy to have saved yourself from making some grave, irreversible errors. Okay. What else is going on in the shop? What else is happening? So much is going on. Well, you know what? I wanted to start off with today because, a lot of times people that graduated from Howard University School of Law, we really, go on and on about it. And I'm going to tell you why. I had a case on Monday. I want to just have some celebrations. Hard fought case on behalf of really, ambitious father trying to maintain relationships with his child that is caught up in the midst of a bitter divorce. And we know that is a common thing that we see in divorce. Let me tell you a couple of the buckets people usually fall into and fall under, which is either, sometimes you haven't really been, maybe mom's really upset, emotionally having her response to the divorce. And for whatever reasons, then, kids become an issue and they're used as pawns. And it happens quite often. And then blocking and ruin relationships between children and their fathers, causing this distance. And we all know how detrimental that pattern is in our community, yet and still it's happening. So to jump in and develop a legal strategy that helped, secure rights for dad so that he could, give it his best and all towards maintaining his relationship with his daughter. And I'm like, we all know, right now we all hear about, what people have gone through and what they've suffered as a result of divorce and how it's impacted their whole life. When my parents got divorced, it was from then I responded and did this. And people, a divorce is a critical turning point for a young person. So I really plead that people consider that. Like, think about how adults, relate to when their parents got divorced. And if you're going through a divorce, I know that's why it needs a holistic approach. Bring it all around. That's why you need a holistic approach, so you can get emotional support, so that you don't do this in the divorce as much as possible. You have some support because it's emotional. This relationship is changing. This reality is changing. It's the summoning and reconciling that an intention was not met when you made the vows. So it's heavy stuff. Okay. It's deep. This is stuff that goes deep. You're going to get within yourself, or you're going to spit venom, and you could be spitting and landing on your kids. Okay. And they are then forever scarred with the poisonous venom spat out because you didn't get a holistic, approach going. That really is a great opportunity to do so much inner work, because to relieve suffering and create value is really what I endeavor to do through my divorces, and guide people through them with, my legal strategy and what I know. So it was just fun on when you go to trial. Some attorneys don't really want to go to trial. You know what I mean? And you don't want to have an attorney like that, because then you could just be giving away the farm because they just don't want to put up the fight. Now, you also don't want an overzealous, pit bull that just want to just barrel through the relationships and don't preserve any grace and opportunity for you to settle, which does save you money as opposed to going to trial. So the preparedness and willingness to go to trial is the basis for a good settlement. Okay, you need the balance. You got to be like, look, we could do it. I'll put on the case. Well, okay, we could agree or not, because I know for sure that, and that's also, really having some depth and understanding about the law. And that ties into why you don't need to represent yourself in these cases where there's assets involved and it's not uncontested. And there's something that matters, that is of value, and say, of conflict dealing with your children. And if there's a disagreement, it's contested. You need to have the depth and understanding of what the outcome probably would be if you took it to trial. See, that's what we're doing when we're coming up with a legal strategy based on experience. Like, how many divorces have you analyzed in at least shotgun to see how it started and what the elements were and how the case developed and how it ended up, to determine the likelihood of what your outcome would be. You're going to always be developing legal strategies from what the most probable outcome is. And, and there's always elements that we have to say, we don't know all of them. And plus, at the end of the day, it's up to the judge, but more than likely based on what's settled law, because it's just not the Wild Wild West out there. There's a framework and structure. And that's what you got to know. You got to know what that framework and structure is, because y'all are just like emotional sometimes, like, okay, well, this is what is going on in, like, you have a thought like, okay, I think that the kids should be with me more time because, this other person has this personality defect, you know what I mean? And that's not all of the elements. That's not how the court is going to analyze the problem. So if you're going to present, you think that if you tell the court, your side of the story, and they understand and believe your side of the story, that you're going to get what you want. And I don't know. I mean, it's not how it really is. We have to go through the elements that the court will be considering and make sure that the factors are developed as appropriate for your case, and that we enter evidence properly that support those elements. And what happened in the dispute, usually a lot of times the things that you guys talk to us about is like maybe, a couple of those elements at some time. So you could really, and then not having the technical understanding of how to get your documents before the court. So you think you're just coming in there with the documents from the doctor. Say you think in your case, I'm going to just show them the medical records. If there's an attorney on the other side, that probably will not come in, meaning that the court's not going to look at the piece of paper. So you can have a whole stack of evidence without at least getting definitely, if you're thinking about proceeding with your own case and you think it's simple, I think you definitely want to get a consultation, because then you can have a professional like myself let you know the depths behind the framework. Make sure you're looking at it and considering the all of the elements relevant for your case, so that you don't have any gaping Swiss cheese, issues in your case. Let me give you case in point. So I have a case where it started off with the parties, this side, my now client, representing himself. And in cases, let me just tell you this, under the law, for you to get something that you want from the court, there's a specific pleading specific document you need to file with the court. Think of it as your offensive strategy. You must launch an offensive strategy for you to get something from the court. Okay. When someone then launches their offensive strategy upon you, they put you on defense, and there's defensive documents you must file to defend against them getting something that you don't want to give them. Okay. So we got offensive documents, defensive documents, and you can understand that construct. Now, if you don't know that it's set up like that, you might think that when this person launches their offensive document, that you can play defense and use the same document to tell the court what you want. And that is technically error. That's not how it goes. But if you don't know that this is how the framework is set up, that now, I've come into the case and I'm like, oh, dude, you're not even in posture to receive anything. It's the court of equity, so maybe they would, grant you some grace and work with you. But technically, the other side, the other attorney, there's an attorney on the other side of this case. I wouldn't allow it. You know what I mean? I would say, you don't have in an offensive document in this case, so the court shouldn't grant you anything. And I would make the court stand on that technical error of yours. And I've done that. I've hung people to dry. Okay. I should laugh, but I'm saying, y'all gotta, I would advise it. It happened in a divorce case. The lady, look, this is another one. It was a contested divorce, and they both were representing themselves. And, during COVID, I think I told the story before, my client, he missed the hearing. He didn't have notice because of COVID. I don't know. He moved. There was a mail shift, but he didn't really, the court provided notice, and, the obligation of notice is fulfilled once it's mailed, not once you receive it. That's the mailbox rule. Okay. Once you drop it in the mail, I don't know what the post office is going to do with it. I don't know when you're going to get it, but my obligation under the rule is I mailed it. So the court mailed the notice wherever they mailed the notice, and he didn't get the notice, and the hearing happened. And, I didn't like that at all. But nonetheless, we get on. So now once he missed that hearing, he said, let me get an attorney because this court ain't playing around. Stuff is happening. I'm not even there. So now we get to trial. He brings me in. And because the lady did not file her offensive document and the required supporting documents to accompany her request, it was a wrap. We're not even, technical strategy is really important in cases. And that, my friends, is what you go to law school to learn, and Google don't teach you. Y'all Google attorneys out there, y'all crack us up. We got a lot of internal jokes about the Google lawyers. You know what I mean? Like, dude, what? The internet existed when I went to law school. It did. I promise you. I use it for research. I can find anything on the internet. My research skills are excellent because when you're in journal, well, either you're going to find it online or you're going to have to start traveling to some libraries and digging in some dusty books. And I see like, look, Google Universe, please provide the information that I need to set me free and move on to the next assignment, because I am not trying to. I went to the Library of Congress. I was like, it was a lot. I had to wait. I had to put in a request to get the book. First, I had to get an ID. Okay, they have an ID process where you have to go make an ID, like a whole card. Okay, you walking in, you just trying to get a book. And now I got to fill out an application for an ID. I was so upset. And then after you do imagine I had to go take a picture and everything, y'all. I'm not just talking about a little card like you get when you join the gym. No, I had a whole picture. It's like that should be considered a state issue ID. I should check. But I was so mad. So anyway, hottest summer, and you had to go and put in a request to get a book. And they do like this. You're gonna have to there's a wait time like an hour to 90 minutes. I was so upset. So I know all about the internet. And I'm going to tell you what it does not provide for you is the technical framework upon which this case progresses. And that bad boy really is the basis of what you want to avoid. And as much as possible, come up with settlements that serve the interests of all. And that is really going to require people to realize that they're not going to probably get everything that they want. Like, this is not a happy occasion. Like bankruptcy, when I get that, debt cleared off, it is, we are feeling light. We are happy in life. Like, we done got rid of debt. Yes. That is something that's just jubilant day. You know what I mean? Juneteenth, we free from debt. It is a great, it feels like that fresh start. But divorce don't feel like that. No, divorce feels like we're on the beginnings of a deep process of healing. There's been a tear. There's been a turn. It's going to get deep. It's good. It's really valuable. You'll have a great opportunity to, rebuild yourself because you're going to need to focus on coming together, and giving up. I mean, everybody, because ideally what people would love is that they could just continue their life, especially when you deal with kids. Money is going to be, there's a formula for the money, so that's just going to be what it's going to be. I mean, there could be fights about business valuations, and it could get sexy once there's a lot of money involved. And that's where definitely folks better know, and that's why I found it so interesting. I was just watching a lot of the appellate arguments in Maryland, and a lot of the issues come down to financial issues, financial litigation. That's why I'm telling you, man, that CPA comes in handy and be like, this, no, buddy. I have settled cases just on really tailored discovery points because I'm a CPA. It means I'm an auditor. It means I know what to ask for to double check to see if what you're talking about makes sense. Better tick and tie, better come together. So it's really serving me well in terms of, so it gets a little nerdy, I know, but I like it. So this is what I tell you guys. Look, boils down today is when it comes down to your rights, especially as a father, just anybody going through divorce, get a consultation, understand the legal framework, because you want to position yourself for success. And that's what we were able to do in the case that we settled on Monday. And, really protecting dad's rights, his interests, like I said earlier, his deep desire to remain present in his daughter's life, even though the intimate relationship with his spouse was ending. And sometimes that transition is really clunky. And that's a real delicate time, because especially if child is in the primary care of, the other parent, they could be suffering. Kids don't like to see their parents suffer. Anybody who make my mama cry, I hate. You know what I mean? That is just the bottom rule of the game. So it's a real tender situation that I would always encourage that their therapists are involved. And, but on both sides, there has to be a real, big picture view of how valuable these relationships are. And like, especially to a little, like a teenage girl. I mean, her dad, she needs that. You don't want that to be the first experience she had with her father, the first man. Like, they broke up, they're not speaking. Oh, well, we have a pattern of that coming. We want that to be a good relationship. But sometimes I found that sometimes moms, can't get off of it. You know what I mean? And they will use it. I was so surprised to learn that, moms, will use kids for pawns. And I was not happy to learn that reality. You always get this picture that moms are, that all moms are created equal, and they're not. And some women are more maternal than others. Some are just, more interested in their kids than others. And I would say, and I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing, and moms love their kids. I think some manage the hurt and disappointment from their relationship ending differently, how they process it, and how it, because I don't think this is just, it's really hard. So how do you respond? You're doing the best you can from where you're at. But it could really sometimes be interfering with, parental, the father's rights and their connection to their children, which is ultimately important. And while you may think that person is just the worst on the planet, if they're showing up, if they're putting up a fight for custody? Come on now. I mean, let that child have their relationship with the father. Now, I mean, obviously, we're not talking about anyone that's going to cause some harm to the child, sex offenders, of course, I'm not, child abusers. You're just talking about someone of upstanding character. Not perfect, I'm sure. You know what I mean? We don't have any perfect beings running around here, but willing and to the extent they can be present. Once you have those elements, I think we should come to the table and settle this, because that is what the court, and then retaining control. This case on Monday, we were about to go. I was ready. You know what I mean? And, when it's time for me to go up in the well, you have to be nothing but ready. Like, look, I'm really clear on what the law is and what I can expect from, this outcome based on the evidence that you're going to present and I'm going to present. But we can either settle this and save these people some more time and money. They've spent a lot already. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you're in these litigations, you make sure that you and your attorney are working hard on settlements, because like I said, getting a case through all that technical procedure is where the bill, it's a lot, you know what I mean? Because you're going to be looking at me like, I hired you, you go, you do it. You know what I mean? It's on me. So if it's on me, I got to make sure it's tight and it's right, And so that's what I wanted to share with you today, just letting you know what's really happening. So be careful. And then one last thing with a type of case that I don't want you to think is easy, because it's seemingly easy on the surface, but it is a technical little thing to manage. Now, in this case I'm working on right now, the other party is non-responsive, right? So remember this, situation I've painted: offense, defense. Offense, I want the court to give me something. Now we've launched this offensive, but he ain't playing defense at all. He's just like, y'all playing by yourself. I'm over here. He like this. If I just don't acknowledge anything from these people, the court, I'm not saying anything, right? That's his he just sitting on the field. Blah. I'm like, oh wow. So now he's been served in this case. So once service happens, the case is going to go forward. And then what has happened now is, so you have this profile where the other person is not responding to anything, right? That puts a lot more technical strain on you to navigate and meet all of the all of the court's requirements to support what you need to get what you want in that complaint. So you have to do it all on your own with no cooperation from the other side, because sometimes you need certain information that you don't have. You can just, if they're in the case, you just you could just harass them to get it. Like if I need your bank statement, I could just harass them to get it. I served you discovery. Now I want it. I can file motions. I can make the court make the other person get the information. Now, when that person is not in the case, now you have to go to third parties like banks and their employers. You got to go get it yourself. And that is a technical exercise, very technical. So I want you to watch out for that scenario. So if it seems like, because you'll think maybe that case is uncontested, like, no, it's not the same. They're not contesting it. Does that mean that it's uncontested? You know what I mean? Uncontested in its true form means that you guys agree. You know what I mean? This one it's not contested, but it is kind of, because now the burden is shifted to you. You have the burden and you have to show all this stuff, and you don't have any cooperation. So it's like, what is that? Stonewalling. You know what I mean? Like, stonewalling is not being peaceful because you're not saying anything. It's passive aggressive. There we are. It's the passive aggressive move that still has you really having to do a bit of work. So watch out for that one. Definitely get a consultation on these cases so you can know at least what you're dealing with. And if you want to go ahead and, jump out there and you're willing to, risk it, and it's maybe not a lot at stake, I'll tell you, you know what I mean? Because I don't want my bill to you to be more valuable than the assets that we are pursuing. That would not be a good cost benefit analysis I think in that case, you would want to do like a deep dive, like just, a couple hours consultation to, make sure that you understand the framework and that you know what you got to do, and help you set you up, make sure all the forms you have look good, and that if you get an agreement or something like that, it can walk you safely down to a very safe point. But you don't know how safe that path is until you talk to me. And if it is, shore you up and get you going. Because I don't want you to spend, a big money to get little return. No, we're not doing that. So we can do, something, more limited in scope and focused on what you need and tailored to your experience. So, guys, I hope you're enjoying the summer. I'm enjoying the summer. It's been fine. I haven't, jumped all the way out there, and I'm just, I'm still coming out of the COVID. So, but I'm enjoying the weather. I'm growing flowers, enjoying that process, having a good time. So hopefully you guys are doing well, being well. You know how to reach me if you need me. And I'll talk to you next week, God willing. All right, talk to you later. Bye.
I'm Carmiece Graves, and I practice family law in the Washington, D.C. area.
One of the questions we have to think about, like say if you're married and you're dealing with your house and you own it together, the question is, well, we have an asset that we need to deal with. Sunset, they just abandoned me and come back. They've been gone. They've been gone. They've been gone. They ain't seen nobody, so I guess it's over. Like this, man, you just can't leave. Not true.